Emmanuel Ritter, a policeman, is celebrating the birth of his son at the hospital. A nurse arrives to take the baby to the nursery. Ritter soon gets a call from the office. He promises his wife he'll return early and leaves. Just as he leaves, another nurse arrives, looking a bit off. She walks inside the nursery and locks the door before wreaking havoc by fatally stabbing the newborns. Chaos ensues as the security and the parents try to open the door. But finding it locked, the security uses a fire extinguisher to break the glass. But by the time they get inside, the nurse slits her throat and dies. Ritter is devastated when he learns his baby boy is one of the victims. 5 years later, a teenage boy goes on a rampage and commits mass murder at a kindergarten, claiming 33 lives, before using the same shotgun to blow his brains out. Ritter is put in charge of the investigation. He interviews the parents of the victims and meets Elena, who's accompanied by her sister Beatrice and her son Isa. Elena is the mother of one of the victims. She tells Ritter that a man approached her in the street a few days ago. The man wore a hood over his head and had satanic symbols tattooed on his head. He had said to her that something bad would happen to her nephew Isa and her son Jonathan, and only he could protect them. He also warned her of more such tragedies. One had already happened a few years ago, and there were 5 more to come. The interview is interrupted by the media hounding the school gates, so Ritter goes to handle them. Unbeknownst to him, the old man with tattoos on his head is watching him. Ritter is soon paired with an American paranormal investigator, Ivan Franco, who arrives at the crime scene to investigate. Some days later, at a swimming pool, the children are busy with their lessons when one of the cleaners suddenly changes her demeanor and, as if in a daze, goes to the locker room to bring out jumper cables from her bag. She wears it around herself and connects it to the main electricity connection. She then takes the other end and menacingly walks towards the pool before diving inside and taking down all the children. At a crime scene, Ritter meets Ivan, who reveals that prints found at a school match those from a hospital incident 5 years ago, where Ritter lost his son. Ritter reacts violently but is interrupted by Demetrio, who reports a woman recognizing the tattooed suspect. Ivan identifies the suspect as Vasilio Canetti, a defrocked priest linked to satanic rituals in Rome, seen at all recent crime scenes. Hearing this, Ritter agrees to cooperate, and Ivan takes him and Demetrio to see the evidence his team has collected to prove the involvement of something more sinister in those incidents. Torn between belief and skepticism, he agrees to visit a fortune teller they know from a case. The 3 men visit her, but she's reluctant because she was put behind bars for 2 years the last time she met them. They promise to take her off the record if she helps them find Canetti. She agrees, and as she pulls out the cards, it predicts one of them is going to die. Just then, a loud creak from upstairs attracts their attention, and they all rush to the fortune teller's daughter's room to witness things flying all around the room. The chaos subsides when they secure the girl, but the terrified fortune teller demands they leave immediately. One day, Beatrice and Isa are going to the theater when Canetti kidnaps the two in a van minutes before a man blows himself up inside the theater. Ritter, Ivan, and Demetrio rush to the scene where Demetrio tells them that after checking through records, they found Isa was the only student who was absent on the days the incidents took place. They suddenly hear whistles indicating a survivor. Once the injured woman is pulled out, she tells Ritter she saw a priest from Church of the Children outside the theater before she succumbs to her injuries. Their research reveals the disappearance of children began 6 years ago, coinciding with Canetti's excommunication. Ivan and Ritter visit the Church of the Children, where a demonic presence manifesting through a porcelain Jesus confronts them, threatening that Ritter will bow to his son reborn on Earth. Despite Ivan's warnings, Ritter engages with the demon, who demands a child sacrifice in return for Canetti's location, promising peace for a millennium. Ritter refuses, haunted by guilt over his wife taking her life over their child's death. The demon then manipulates Ritter with an illusion of his wife and child, but the vision turns horrifying when Ritter realizes he's holding a decomposed infant. As Ritter is overcome with grief, Ivan shoots the possessed statue, breaking the demon's influence. Ivan tries to console Ritter, but enraged, Ritter starts beating the hell out of Ivan till Canetti shows up from behind and tases Ritter. The next morning, Ritter finds himself cuffed to his bed inside an abandoned part of a plane. Canetti gives him some water, and after realizing he's in a safe place, Ritter confesses that he couldn't control his body. Canetti shows Ritter footage of Ivan being cared for by Beatrice and tells him it's a miracle that both of them are alive after facing the demon. Kennedy frees Ritter and tells him that when Jesus died on the cross, he promised to return to Earth. Since then, the people on Earth have been waiting for the third coming. And after 2,000 years, the Messiah has returned. He takes Ritter to where Beatrice and Issa are and tells him Issa is Christ reincarnated. Kennedy plans to take Issa across the border to a monastery to train him for what is to come. Ritter contacts Demetrio and asks him to arrange for means to transport Beatrice and Issa across the border of Mexico. With the help of migrants, they all enter an underground tunnel through a Chinese restaurant into the US. While walking, Ritter asks Kennedy how he came in contact with the demon. Kennedy reveals he sold his soul to the demon in exchange for information about Issa's whereabouts. They soon walk into an unholy place that reeks of negative energy. Sensing the ungodly presence, Kennedy says they need to move quickly, but surprisingly, Ritter questions Kennedy about what he did with the rest of the missing kids. Kennedy says they're in a safe place, but Ritter refuses to believe him, and claims Kennedy eliminated them to save his soul. Ritter becomes very aggressive, and Kennedy realizes the demon has possessed Ritter. Kennedy starts praying and begins the exorcism ritual, which scares Ritter and he backs off. As the ritual progresses, the demon uses its powers to render the flashlights useless. Kennedy uses a flare to light up the room when suddenly Ritter tases Kennedy and knocks Ivan unconscious before going after Beatrice, who flees with Issa. Beatrice soon reaches the other end, and hearing Beatrice's screams, Demetrio follows them and sees Ritter chasing Beatrice and Issa holding a gun. Suddenly, Ritter starts hearing his wife's voice, which brings him back to his senses for a few minutes, and he turns to Demetrio asking for his help. But just when Demetrio hugs Ritter, he shoots Demetrio as the demon regains control over Ritter. Ritter proceeds to snatch Issa from Beatrice and tries to gouge his eyes out, but he's knocked unconscious by Beatrice, who uses a rock to attack him. Meanwhile, Ivan gains consciousness and runs to save Issa. They find Ritter unconscious and is joined by two of Kennedy's men. They drag him back to the ungodly chamber in the tunnel, and Kennedy, who also regains consciousness, reveals they'll have to perform an exorcism and help Ritter confront the demon, or else the demon will keep coming after Issa. For the ritual, they cover all the statues with white cloth. Kennedy takes Issa to the other room to keep him safe and avoid scaring him further. They prepare for the ritual and tie Ritter to a crucifix with chains. As they prepare to nail him, he tries one last time to plead with Beatrice, but after realizing it's not working, he drops his ploy. Ritter laughs and says they're all going to die. Ivan empties the bottle of holy water on Ritter when suddenly a mass starts forming on Ritter's stomach. Ritter uses the white cloth covering the statues to wrap it around two men's faces and attacks them with deadly bugs and insects. Ivan and Beatrice continue the ritual and are able to finish the exorcism, which renders Ritter unconscious. But to their horror, the crucifix levitates in the air and Ritter opens his eyes to reveal the demon still possessing him. Ritter frees himself from the crucifix and pulls out the long nails from his hands. Using one of these nails, he strikes Ivan. He then turns to Beatrice, who tries to flee, but he shuts the door behind her. In the other room, Issa starts crying upon hearing the screams, and Kennedy smiles as he removes his shirt and menacingly approaches Issa with a blade. Meanwhile, Ritter grabs Beatrice's neck and lifts her. He says everyone is going to die when suddenly Kennedy walks in with bloodied hands. Ritter turns to attack him, but Kennedy places his blood-covered hand on Ritter, and all the tattoos on his body start glowing. The demon finally leaves Ritter's body and enters Kennedy's, but Kennedy isn't done yet. He grabs a rock and commands the demon to be trapped in the rock for eternity. The demon releases his body and is forced to enter the rock, which glows as Kennedy collapses. Ritter wakes up confused, and so does Ivan. A few days later, Ivan addresses the Holy Council about the incident and tells them that Issa is safe and his location will remain undisclosed until the time comes. They, however, fear for the child's safety with Ritter around, but Ivan advocates in favor of Ritter being the boy's guardian because Ritter has survived after harboring a powerful demon inside of him. It's unlikely that he'll be tested against evil again. In the meantime, Beatrice, Issa, and Ritter blow up the tunnel to bury the demon so no one finds it. That's a wrap for today's horror recap of the movie Beelzebooth. Grab your holy water and a comfy blanket and prepare for a horror movie recap night by subscribing and pressing the bell icon so you never miss out on our amazing horror recaps.